Hello and welcome. In this on-demand video, OJM Group partner David Mandell covers reasons why physicians should protect personal and practice assets from liability risks and outlines the basic components of a solid asset protection plan. If you have more questions or want to learn how to incorporate asset protection planning into your financial strategy, click the link below to schedule a complimentary one-on-one consultation with one of our experienced team members.
Hi, I'm David Mandell, and today we'll be talking briefly about asset protection. So it's Asset Protection 101, what every physician should know. Let's jump into it. So why should you, as a doctor listening to this, watching this, care about protecting assets? Well, I'm not here to push the panic button, but certainly there is liability for those practicing medicine and those in my shoes with a financial company, with a law practice, driving, et cetera. So what are the kind of leading risks? Well, probably as you click to watch this, I would guess medical malpractice might be in your mind. And certainly there are cases, as I see in the reports, of malpractice, claims and judgments in the multi-million-dollar ranges, typically every couple of months in any jurisdiction. Those can be very large claims, and they can even be higher than insurance. So it's certainly something to be wary of. And I got into asset protection planning as a lawyer 25 years ago because my father was a radiologist. He was concerned. He said, listen, I'm doing the best I can for patients, but I know I'm going to miss things over time. I'm building these assets. Why don't I at least find out about this kind of planning that I can put some protection around the wealth I'm building for myself and for my family. And I think he was wise to do that and led me on my path. Wrote the book called The Doctor's Asset Protection Guide in 1997. That was 25 years ago now. If you have your own practice, you also have potentially employer liability. That could be for harassment. That could be for wrongful termination. That could be because, as a captain of the ship, analogy, you could be liable for something your employee does. So you could have nothing to do with it, but yet as an owner of the company, you could have liability there. Another topic that I've spoken often at medical conferences, and I think we've got some videos on, is you could be, and in most likely cases in a private practice, you are personally the owners, the practice partners, fiduciaries on the qualified plan, and you can have liability for that. And there's multi-million-dollar cases against businesses, against educational institutions like MIT, et cetera, that rank and file employees have brought against the owners because the plans don't do what they're supposed to do. You can have billing issues. That could be Medicare coming in. That could be overbilling or anti-kickback rules, et cetera. You can have liability for that within the practice. HIPAA violations. This is something we've seen much more often in the last 5 years than I did in the beginning of my career. You can have slip and fall, premises liability if you own properties, even nothing to do with the practice. Personal liability, contracts, personal guarantees, other businesses, driving, your kids driving. All of these things can potentially lead to liability. And I'm not someone who says you should do all these things. I mean, I drive, I have a company, I have another company, I do, have a law practice. So I'm out there doing things in the economy, but I realize I should spend a little bit of time. If I'm spending 95% of my time building wealth, I'm going to spend, maybe 5% of it protecting it. So that's why you should care. That's why I care. Okay. Now, we have a book. I'm working on the next version. It goes all the way back to 1998, which is a CME monograph. At this point, we're between issues, so we don't have one that's valid for CME right now, but in the first quarter of 2023, we will. And it's called Risk Management of the Practicing Physician. And it's something I've written with my father, who's a physician, along with my partners. And there's great chapters in there. And risk management, which you've probably heard of and maybe gone through some courses yourself, is how to basically behave in the practice and set things up operationally so there's less likelihood of liability, less likelihood. You're reducing risks. you're taking, proper precautions in whatever specialty you have, the way you communicate with patients, especially on bad outcomes. Lots of different tips and advice, how you lay out the practice in terms of physically from a premises point of view. We have in that book, and risk management in general is about doing things to reduce risk. And that's smart. And you should do that. But I think asset protection says, regardless of how well you practice, and I think that's what my father realized when he investigated this 30 years ago. No matter how well I practice, I'm going to make mistakes. There's going to be bad outcomes potentially, even when I don't make a mistake, right? And that's the same thing with just life. You could be driving very carefully, but you get into an accident because of the person in front of you, and you swerve to not hit them, and you hit somebody else. Lots of reasons why we can have liability where we really didn't do anything wrong. Okay. And then there's mistakes we make just by being humans, right? So asset protection isn't about behavior. It's about structuring your assets in a way and recognizing there's always risk. And again, you can find out how to get our books for free by being a viewer at the end of this. But our latest book, Wealth Planning for the Modern Physician, has a whole section on asset protection planning. Everything I'm talking about here and a lot more is in that book. So you should get it. Now, what is asset protection? Let's define it. It's a multidisciplinary approach to shielding practice and personal assets from future liability. Let's break that down. Okay. Multidisciplinary. That's crucial. Yes, I still have my law practice. I've been practicing law since 1995, 27 years, and all of that time in the asset protection field. But there's a lot more to asset protection than legal tools. In fact, the best tools that you can use are not legal tools, as we'll see in a minute. So I see proper asset protection planning and what we provide at OJM Group as insurance. It's kind of like a stool, three-legged stool. Insurance, legal, financial. You have insurance tools, you have legal tools, you have financial tools. All three of those can provide you that protection. Any one of them, even the best law firm, like I was working on Park Avenue in New York, the biggest law firm in Manhattan, multinational law firm, can only do legal tools. They usually don't look at or help you with insurance, and they certainly don't help you with exempt assets, as we'll talk about in a second, which are the best protectors. So you got to use all three. And if you haven't, it makes sense to, maybe contact us and we can chat about doing a review. Practice and personally. Okay. Certainly most people think about losing personal assets because there's an emotional value if you lose your home or your personal investments, et cetera. Practice assets also should be well protected. And, we have the ability at OJM to look at both, either or not. Certainly we have plenty of clients. Just got an engagement from a client today who saw me speak at a conference, and he's employed for a large institution, but still concerned about liability, doing some entrepreneurial things as well. And we're going to do a review for him. Future liability. This is crucial. You cannot protect against claims, even reasonably foreseeable claims, and there's a lot of gray area in legal cases on what that means, once you have a problem. Right. So once you have a problem, if it's reasonably foreseeable, you can't then move assets around or buy exempt assets, et cetera, and expect to protect against it. It has to be for future unforeseen claims. And that means anytime I talk to a physician, it means, hey, even if there's something out there today, or if the coast is clear, what we're going to do is put you in better shape for the future so that if anything does come down the road in the future, you're well protected. And then at OJM Group, and I really recommend people find this if it's not with our firm, which is a diagnostic versus treatment model. That's crucial because I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and they say, I spent $8,000 on this trust or $15,000 on this asset protection plan. I'm not really sure how it works. I don't know if there's any assets in it, et cetera. Why? Because they were all about treatment. Getting the tool in place, getting the medicine, getting the procedure, without someone actually going through a real diagnostic process to lay out what are your options, pros and cons, costs and benefits, and let's lay out a plan. And then you can make a decision to implement that treatment. Because if you don't understand what the treatment is, if you just get a bunch of tools, it may not be effective. And in many cases, you'll be spending a lot of money for nothing. much better to actually pay for a diagnostic, which is what we do at OJM, and then you can make educated, informed decisions about, I'm going to treat this, but I'm not going to do this. You have A, B, C, D, E recommendations. I might do A and C, but I'm not going to do B, D, and E. And that's fine. Then you understand what A and C do, and you do them properly. Then you've actually spent wise money. So oftentimes by having the diagnostic first, you can actually save a bunch of money on treatment because you're actually well educated on what the options are and what the costs and benefits are. So multidisciplinary, practice and personal, future liability, diagnostic and treatment model. Now, insurance is important. Okay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I want to wrap this up pretty quickly here. But at OJM Group, one of the things when we founded this wealth management firm, I was one of the co-founders in 2007, 15 years ago. I'd already been practicing law at that point for 12 years. And I realized that we were doing a great job when I was practicing law, but we weren't doing anything on the insurance side. And it's good to have, and it's important to have quality insurance at the practice, medical malpractice, general liability, cyber, privacy, cover some HIPAA violations, all those kinds of things, employee practices. And personally, it's incredibly smart to have good auto, homeowners, umbrella policy. And we do that. We review that at OJM Group. So we can dig into that and make recommendations on insurance. But the reason we're going through this today, and reason probably you're listening and watching, is insurance doesn't cover for everything. And there's a reason there's 30 pages long, these policies, because there's a lot of outs, there's a lot of coverage limitations, there's a lot of I wouldn't say loopholes, but carve outs and practice limits, right? There's insurance coverage limits, I mean to say. So it's great to have good insurance. It's part of what we review, but we want to do things just in case insurance doesn't cover us. And that's where the other two legs of the stool come in. And this is in our books. So don't feel like you have to take a photo of this, but this is the sliding scale. And we've been using this in our books for 20 plus years, -5 being an asset that's in an ownership form that's totally exposed. You have no protection whatsoever. And +5 being one that's completely off the table. Someone could have $1 billion judgment against you, but they can't touch that asset. And those are exempt assets. And every state has different ones. And this is why it's so important to get a diagnostic so you can understand what exempt assets are in your state. In between that -5 to +5 are where lawyers play a key role, either helping clients move into the proper ownership form, like a tenancy by the entirety in certain states. Many legal tools, like limited liability companies especially, used to do a lot of family limited partnerships, but not so much anymore. LLCs are certainly much more popular. Different types of trusts. I only mentioned a couple here in the scale, but there's like 20 different types of trusts that all have various bells and whistles that might make sense for a client. Certainly the domestic asset protection trust and the hybrid domestic asset protection trust can make a lot of sense for physicians. And then because at the +5, obviously there's the +5 exempt assets. So, what we're trying to do with our clients is not get them to +5 across the board. That's not possible, but it is possible and feasible in many circumstances to move clients from a negative position to a positive position, especially with the most valuable pieces of their balance sheet. So again, if you're in a position, if you're watching this and you're in a place where you might have a lot of your assets in the negative spots, or in the middle of the scale, and you want to get to a higher level of scale, we'd love to talk to you. As I sign off here, you can learn more about how to get our books for free and how you can contact us to set up a free initial consult where we can talk about asset protection planning. Thank you, and look for more of our videos soon.
OJM is a multidisciplinary wealth management firm. We specialize in working with doctors, and our team has helped physicians reduce taxes, protect assets, and achieve their financial goals. Don't forget, OJM Group also offers viewers a complimentary consultation where we can answer your questions to see if our firm might be a good fit for your situation. Simply click the button below to schedule your free consultation. And if you haven't already,